The battle for corporate control of the Walt Disney Company has heated up. Within the last few weeks, Bob Iger has named 2 additional board members, and Nelson Peltz has responded by naming himself as a nominee to the board, as well as the former Disney Company CFO Jay Rizzullo, a man who at one point was considered to be the next CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. I'm Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and today we are talking about Trian Fund Management and their proxy battle for control of the Walt Disney Company. Not only did they name their 2 nominees for the board, one being Nelson Peltz, which is no surprise to anyone, but also Jay Rizzullo. This is a strategy that would seem to defeat most of Bob Iger's refutation, saying, no, you don't have anyone qualified to run this company on the board. Or nominated to the board. In addition, Nelson Peltz pointed out that most of the members of the board, when you put them together, they own less than $15 million in shares of the Walt Disney Company, as opposed to Peltz and his people who own close to $3 billion. That would, of course, be majority Ike Perlmutter shares. Well, anyways, let's get into it. Nelson Peltz is a billionaire, and he has a lot of money tied up into the Walt Disney Company, and he has decided to pair up with Ike Perlmutter, and together they have about $3 billion worth of Walt Disney Company shares, and it seems like they're getting more support. There's another billionaire hedge fund called Ancora that has also joined up. If you are following our live streams and our coverage, you should know about that. And here we have the story, this one from Trian Partners. Trian nominates 2 candidates to the Walt Disney Company board, New York and Palm Beach, Florida, December 14th. Hey, that's today. Trian Fund Management LP, together with its affiliates, which beneficially own $3 billion of common stock in the Walt Disney Company, today submitted a notice of its intention to nominate 2 independent director candidates for election to the Disney Board of Directors at the company's 2024 annual shareholders meeting. Disney is one of the most iconic, well, they're just fluffing Disney there because it's a company that's worth talking about. Earnings per share in the most recent fiscal year were lower than the EPS generated by Disney a decade ago, and were 50% lower than peak EPS, despite over $100 billion of capital invested. Margins in both Disney's DTC, that's streaming, by the way, and its consolidated media operations significantly lag peers. So he's comparing Disney to everyone else in the space, despite Disney having scale and superior IP. That superior intellectual property. I saw some tweets recently about the Netflix dump of information. All of these shows that are outclassing Disney right now, most people have not heard of them. People have heard of The Mandalorian. People have heard of Loki. But they're just not watching the shows currently. For shareholders, this subpar performance has destroyed value. Let's see. Unfortunately, the board and CEO appear to have no conviction that things will get better. The non-management directors collectively own less than $15 million of stock. So the people that are actually in charge of running the company don't have nearly as much skin in the game. If you multiplied this by 10, you would still have to multiply it by 10 again in order to get to the amount of shares owned by Mr. Perlmutter, and you still, I think he'd still have you there. So the people who are running the company don't seem to have faith in the company. Oh, here we go. Trian's director candidates are Nelson Peltz. You know him, you love him. Maybe you don't love him. Nelson is Trian's executive officer and founding partner, and has served as a director on more than a dozen public company boards, including world-class companies. But this is the one that's more interesting. James A. Rizzullo. Jay spent 3 decades at Disney and served as a senior executive vice president and chief financial officer of the company from 2010 to 2015. During his tenure as CFO, the company delivered compound annual returns for shareholders of approximately 27% and compounded EPS at a rate of approximately 20%. Paid a consistent and generous dividend, and Disney share price appreciated over 250%. Before being appointed CFO, Jay was chairman of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts Worldwide from 2005 to 2009, and was president of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts from 2002 to 2005, delivering compounded high single-digit revenue and segment operating income growth annually. Bob Iger called Jay a vital contributor to Disney's success with strategic acumen and savvy insight. Sorry, that was a lot to read. What is the main complaint that we've been receiving about Nelson Peltz and his and why he shouldn't be allowed on the board, according to Bob Iger?
Oh, he has no experience. He has no experience running an entertainment conglomerate such as Disney. Well,
right now we're watching a game of chess. I think you guys can see what's happening there. So,
yes.
And Jay Rasulo is a great choice because he was a CFO. Makes sense. I mean, I have my own issues with him.
Go ahead, Culture. What are some of those issues?
Just again, he was largely responsible for some of the things not happening in a timely manner, and for some of the financial practices that Disney still has today, which would include amortizing attraction development over long periods of time rather than just biting the bullet and paying for it and getting it built as quickly as possible.
Yep. Would you say like the 6 years it took to
that wasn't him, but yes, that practice, yes.
That kind of practice, though?
Yeah, because it did take 6 years to get Tron built, which is stupid.
That ride being a exact copy of what is over in Shanghai, so it's not like they didn't have experience in building it.
And they copied all of its faults, Jonas, including the fact that it is less than a minute long.
It is less than a minute long, and also there was a light tunnel in the queue that
doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, they've taken it down and replaced it with bare black. It's not even matte black; they're shiny black walls. So all of the fault in the paint there also comes through. So. Jay Rasulo, though, you look at the complaints. The first complaint is that Nelson Peltz has no media experience. Nelson Peltz responded by saying, well, you don't have anyone on the board other than Bob Iger who has media experience. So Disney responded by putting Sir Jeremy Derrick, or Derrich, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he was the head of Sky, which is kind of like the European version of Fox Corporation. So they finally have a board member that they've put up that has media experience. Basically, what I was saying is that you have probably the most qualified board candidate that you could ever have here with Jay Rasulo.
He was a guy that was in the contention for the CEO position. Remember, Iger famously switched Jay Rasulo and Tom Staggs' position. Tom Staggs being the previous CFO, and Jay Rasulo being the chairman of Parks and Resorts. He switched them in order to see which would thrive more in the role they were placed in, and see who was really in that CEO contention spot. Coulter, go ahead.
Well, no, it's more chess moves, right? Because Iger brings in Staggs and Mayer, and then that plays out like they're there to help advise from their Candle Media positions what Iger should do with ESPN. That's not really why they were. I mean, sure, they can definitely contribute to that conversation, but that's not why they were there. So and again, you just outlined that it was Staggs and Rasulo. And the reasons that Staggs got pushed out are still swept under the rug. But it's very interesting that it's moves and counter moves, and we're watching a very high level game of chess. I just want everybody to be focused in on that. Why is this person being brought in now? Why is this person being pulled in?
And one of the reasons why. Oh, go ahead.
No, please go.
One of the reasons why Staggs didn't actually end up getting the CEO spot was because of Ike Perlmutter, who wanted to, let's say, urinate in Iger's cornflakes a little bit right there for having been upended as the in-between between Kevin Feige.
It also kind of involved like a massive budget overrun on NGE primarily.
Yes,
So
which NGE,
that was
can you
really bad.
If my audio is working now, can you explain what NGE is to the audience?
Next generation experiences?
Yeah, NGE was the next generation experience. It was the concept from which we got hatched the My Disney experience thing, the Magic Bands, ticketless, design, the new integrations of your Magic Band with the attractions around you, which never really worked properly. It incorporated a way to track guests from park entry all the way through their experience on property, and it was supposed to incorporate a payment system and a hotel key entry system as well. And while all those entitlements could be wrapped into that little RFID chip, right? Yeah. They experienced massive faults with that system continually. And it's because they were trying to integrate legacy systems that they just couldn't see their way to replace with a lot of modern equipment that was also an array of things that didn't quite work well together.
Which again, would you say that Genie Plus is an extension of that NGE system?
Yeah,
correct. Yeah. It was The
Yeah,
NG was
yeah.
developed under Jay and then
Yeah.
implemented by Tom Staggs, so that's
Yeah.
kind of why, it's
Yeah, it was not a great time. And yeah, Staggs lost his gig because it was supposed to be in the hundreds of millions and ended up well over $1 billion. And some people suggest even more than I even know. So,
Here's a good quote from Rizzullo. The Disney I know and love has lost its way. As
There it is.
independent voices in the boardroom, Nelson and I are confident that the combination of my decades of experience at Disney, Nelson's significant boardroom skills, and his history of driving positive strategic change, and our combined consumer brands expertise and financial acumen will be additive to the Disney board. Rizzullo left in 2015 after Iger promoted Staggs to COO. That was, of course, maybe you said this, I missed it because of some technical issues there, that Staggs was the next in line to be the next person to not be the future CEO of the Walt Disney Company.
Yes.
We have a long list of that, which has only grown over the years. Christine McCarthy, Bob Chapek somehow got through. That's, of course, never supposed to happen while Bob Iger is still there. Tom Staggs, Kevin Mayer, anybody else? Jay Rizzullo, do you think he was also destined to be CEO of the Walt Disney Company at one point or another?
From what I understand, Iger specifically switched the roles to see which of those would thrive in their new roles. So Tom Staggs going from CFO to chairman of Parks and Resorts, and then Jay Rizzullo being dragged from chairman of Parks and Resorts to the CFO position. He was literally kind of putting them against each other and see, hey, who comes out on top of this.
Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. This clip was part of our now regular Thursday live stream, which starts at noon Eastern time. Of course, just hit the notification bell if you'd like YouTube to just tell you when that is. Like this video if you like this video. If you know somebody who is as interested as we are in this sort of thing, then maybe you should share the link with them. And of course, please consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.